Wheels up, everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of Come On You Reds, your Toronto FC podcast. Gareth Wheeler, Terry Dunfield with you. We are into the international window, but we have a game to talk about. The first win under Bob Bradley, a 2-1 win last weekend over DC United. What's going on, Terry Dunfield? And for all those watching on YouTube right now, I feel like we're doing a media availability with Terry Dunfield behind the podium. It's on Zoom. So, Terry, you just need to say about 3 or 4 times, can you hear me? Can they hear me? Can you hear me yet? Yeah, can you hear me?
Check 1, 2. No,
I can't wait till Zoom
calls it. It's a really good
forever.
Virtual background. Zoom has gone to another level.
Looking sharp. How are you, Terry? I haven't seen you. Canada's about to play. We're about to be reunited. TFC coming off a big win. Life is good.
Life is busy, but it's great. Thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, everything's good. We're just ready to rock and roll when it comes to this upcoming week. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it down to BMO Field on the weekend. Did you make it down for the 2-1 win?
Yep. Of course,
how was it down there on the weekend?
It was rocking. There was no hangover from the Red Bulls game. And it was like, okay, today's the day, never in doubt. And once we got over the line, it's like, okay, breathe. It's okay. We're going in the right direction. And I thought it was a really solid performance considering the stakes. It almost felt like a must-win game coming into this window. Otherwise, it'd probably be a long 2 weeks. And the boys dug deep. I thought the change of shape worked. And for the most part, it was comfortable and a little bit of resilience to Wheels, having gone 1-0 down. And the guys showed a bit of grit to battle back.
It was kind of like flipping the script from the week before. We didn't podcast after the 2-1 loss down in Columbus. Jaden Nelson joined me last week on Touchline Talks. It was great to catch up with him. Where in Columbus, TFC started strong and faded down the stretch. It kind of flipped the script in this last game. Would you chalk that down or up to lesson learned from Toronto FC, and what you're seeing is a group that's getting more familiar with the way that Bob Bradley wants to play and more familiar with one another with so many different players in the team? I counted it, Terry. TFC played DC United on decision day at the end of last season. Only 5 players played in that final game of the MLS regular season last year that played in this game against DC United 4 games into the brand new season. This is a completely new set of players, a completely different project.
Yeah, I'd say team chemistry is a big one, and boys are starting to become familiar with one another for sure. I'd say understanding their roles and what's required in each moment, and just sort of seeing more actions has helped, and more time on the training ground for sure. And then I'd say just the context of the game and the way it played out. It's a really good DC team. I'd be surprised if DC aren't in the playoffs. And the biggest step forward, in my opinion, was how we protected the goal. And we limited DC to half chances. I thought the goal was a well taken goal from Canoes, but it wasn't like Alex Bono was called into action a ton of times. I only really remember the chance early on. It's the first time we've been below a goal in expected goals, just 5.3 expected goals. So I thought maybe the extra man in the back 3, the system, starting to get to know each other a little bit better, all kind of played a role. But I thought we defended really well. We were less open.
There were 2 changes to the starting 11 ahead of that game. Salcedo came back in. I thought it was so harsh that he was suspended for the Columbus game. Settles things down nicely, doesn't he? You notice the difference at the back when he's in the team and when he's not, as well as Shane O'Neill coming back into the team. What would you say the formation was? I was kind of debating with myself throughout the game whether it was a 5-3-2, a 5-4-1, a 5-2-2-1. Like, what do you think exactly it was, and how would you describe it?
Yeah, I'd say it was a back 3: McNaughton, Salcedo, and O'Neill, and then you've got Oso and Michael Bradley in midfield or wing backs, and then you've got a nice front 3. And I thought it was bold from Bob Bradley to to essentially just match up DC. And I think the extra defender at the back gave us a little bit more security in transition.
Yeah. The changes worked. It's funny. You think about some of these young players that are coming in. Caden Chung goes from playing left center back against Columbus to playing a right wing back or a right fullback against DC United. There's some serious versatility in this team. And as you mentioned, it worked. It was a fourth separate starting 11 from Toronto FC in 4 games. The only negative, I think you pointed out, that first goal that was scored, the crosser didn't close down quick enough. 2 young players playing at the far post, just not communicating. Too much space for Knaus. He scores the goal. Terry, that's the 4th goal conceded by Toronto FC in the first 30 minutes of games. Is there something there that needs to be corrected? Or again, is this just a team kind of still finding its way?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty well-worked goal. And I think one of the downsides were when you play 3 proper center backs is at times the tips, the wide guys in the back 3 might find themselves in that wide channel defending 1v1 up against a tricky winger. And McNaughton found himself in that spot. It came from a throw-in, and a 6'3" center back getting real close to someone can be difficult. There's a little bit of a superiority there. DC create half a yard, and now in the box, I think Salcedo had come over to help. You now have a 3 kind of defending the cross that don't defend a ton of crosses together. And I thought Knaus's run from midfield was clever. He just came off the shoulder of Nelson, found a little bit of space. And look, it's a tricky header to score from there. It is a well-taken goal. So I think you've got to give DC some credit for it. But in that moment, Wheels, it would be so easy to feel sorry for yourself. You're at home. There's a bit of pressure. Haven't won in 3. But it didn't affect the group. The group continued to get after it. And just going back to Caden Chung, I think when you make a step up or you come to a new club, it's a big ask to ask a young player to play out of position. And I think finding that level of comfort for him and him just kind of playing in his best position is important for players. It's almost like a comfort blanket. And I think we saw the best of Caden Chung on Saturday.
Now we've seen him play quite often. Last year in the Canadian Premier League, he predominantly played right back, and that's what we know him as, right? A right back or a right wing back player. But he's also played on the left side of defense as well. Not normally centrally, Terry. That was a completely new look against Columbus, but he can play down the left, that left back as well. So he brings that versatility.
Yeah, he can. And that's probably one of the reasons, he was brought on board, and us playing in various competitions and Richie Larea leaving. We're a little bit short at left back right now. Auro's moved on. So I think that cover is important. But if you ask Caden Chung, his best spot is an attacking fullback at right back. And what a cross he put in for Jimenez as well. I think it was shortly after we conceded.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to get at. TFC have now scored 4 goals in first half of games. So although they've conceded 4 in the first 30, they're finding a way to punch back and get that goal back before halftime. And it only took 13 minutes before the ball found the back of the net. It was interesting because there was 2 earlier corner kicks, which came from the near side, where the ball was pinged by Luca Petrasso near post to Michael Bradley flicking on. And neither of the first 2 times kind of worked. I was like, what's with this set? Like, just get it in the area, get it far post. And then they switched over the other side, did the exact same thing, and it worked to perfection. This is clearly something that they've been working on the training ground. Bradley, the deftest of touches. It's Pozuelo running in far post. Picture perfect, touches it in for his first goal of the season. So there was method to the madness. And then I found myself saying, okay, now I get it. Be patient, Wheeler. Be patient. That goal was scored in the 23rd minute. Well taken set piece, Terry.
I love your OG mindset. Just put it in the mixer. Put it in the box.
Yeah.
Just get it.
I just watched Cruz Azul play in the Champions League. That's what they're playing direct, Route A.
Just find Victoria at the back post.
Yes.
It was I think, yeah, you've got to give the coaching staff and the players a ton of credit. Not to give away too much, on Friday, I was, or match day -1. It's weird. When you come into the coaching side, you don't even know Friday is a Friday. It's just match day -1. Yeah. It was, the weather's starting to change, and I was outside watching the first team train. It was great. And for about 40 minutes, they went through set pieces. And as a player, I remember, man, that was tough to concentrate through. My head would be thinking about lunch or my role the next day. So now on the sideline watching all the detail come across, it was still tough to be like, oh man, this is long. And I'm looking at my watch like that. But it was so cool the next day to see it exactly come out. And I think it's an important goal for Pozuelo. And I think that was important for his confidence. And again, you see Luca Petrasso's quality. What a ball that was to the near post, and a nice touch from Michael Bradley.
Yeah, I've been there enough to know that was something that was worked on, that set piece, just the way that played out. And I echo those sentiments. You're right. Pause getting off the mark. Just had 1 goal and 4 assists in 19 games. He's already has 1-1 here in 2022. This is a player who had 9-9 in 2020 in the regular season, 12-7 assists in 2019 in 30 games in the regular season. You're bang on. Important for him to get a goal. I don't care how they happen. If they're tap-ins, whether it's from the penalty spot, whether it's from like a rocket from outside the box, just get him going. And he's a player that kind of, he thrives off that mojo, getting it going, right, Terry? Like once he gets one, you can see, okay, here we go. The only kind of downside is that it's the international break right now. He has to wait a couple of weeks to get back out there.
But you can kind of relive that goal, even though it was from a yard out. But it gives him a nice feeling. And I think that's one piece to the puzzle that Bob's maybe just trying to figure out. He's played as a 10. Yeah. He played wide in the front 3 against DC. How are we going to get the best out of Pozuelo? And I think a goal just helps buy-in. When we scored 2, it was so important as well, because you're just before halftime. And I think it kind of structures your halftime team talk into, let's just trust what we're doing right now. We don't need to change a whole bunch. I think if you come in 1-0 down at halftime, are you starting to consider adjusting stuff? Does a Chara maybe come on a little bit earlier? Do you go to a back 4 to chase the game a little bit? And I think scoring just kind of alleviates that. And it's okay, let's give it another 15, 20 minutes.
The other thing I wanted to point out is that with 3 center backs, like there's license for players to get forward. And Lucas McNaughton was a player who got forward in the buildup to that goal. It was a real heads up play. He tried to play in the cross from the right-hand side. The ball was played straight back his way. He brought his head up, looked, didn't have any options. He's like, I'm just going to leave that for a corner kick. Like it was a moment of composure, Terry, where like the game slows down. He's like, no, we're better with a set piece here than me trying to take the ball myself inside the area. I just thought it was he's 26, 27 now. This is his first year in Major League Soccer, but I liked him showing just a little bit of composure there, which led to the set piece, which led to the goal.
Yeah, and I don't think that little bit of savviness is something that we don't have a ton of in our culture in North America, and I think it just comes with experience and playing. And he's played a lot of soccer, albeit not at the MLS level, but he's played 4 years at U of T, 3-4 years in the Canadian Premier League. That's a lot of games. And I think that all kind of totals in a nice decision. And that was important. Good spot.
11 set piece goals last season. That's the first of this season. A lot of those goals came by this Sateldo over the top to Gonzalez, which was a weapon at the end of last season, Terry. But good to see one come from a corner kick, and good to hear that despite the players might not being thrilled, that the side is working on it on a regular basis. Now every game, TFC scored a goal and conceded a goal. So one of them good, one of them a work in progress. So 1-1 into halftime. The second half, a memorable moment. Goal number 50 for the great Jonathan Osorio for Toronto FC. I found it very interesting. TSN did the halftime interview, Bob Bradley coming off the field. And he asked, and I believe it was Matthew Shinetti asked about potential changes in the team or what he wants to see different. He said, and Bob's very direct. I love how he's just no messing around. It's like, here's my answer. Boom, let's go. He said, I want Alejandro Pozuelo playing more centrally, so drifting less. And he wants Jonathan Osorio to push up the field. He needs to play higher at times. And on the goal that was scored in the 53rd minute, both of those things happened. Pozuelo being playmaker from a more central area and Osorio getting up the field. It was almost like the Dallas Redux coming down that right-hand side. Terry, you took a deeper look or a better look at this Osorio goal. Perhaps you could walk us through what you saw.
Yeah, it really did play out as his chat with Shinetti. And what's cool about Bob Bradley is just how authentic he is. What you see in front of our cameras, what you hear is exactly who he is. His detail's another level. He's the first in the facility at 7 a.m. He's one of the last to leave. Everything that we're hearing is Bob Bradley, and is that level of detail and exactly what he's looking for to help the team is pretty special. And it's a methodology which almost drops the right nugget to help each player and help the team. It's almost like you're getting personal feedback in a real collective game. And yeah, it's cool to see how that plays out. Tons of good learnings. If we get to the goal, I thought the balance and the movement of Osorio and Michael was excellent. On the weak side, Oso dropped a little bit lower. Michael was a little bit higher, and it gave us an out across the field. Oso had tons of time and space, and it's sometimes nice when a midfielder has time and space and you get that skill set to play balls in behind. There's a run in behind from Jimenez. DC were a little bit slow to shift across. Petrasso's really high. And what TFC did well all game is they picked up second balls. And if the DC midfielder stepped onto TFC's midfield, now TFC were stepping forward onto these second balls. They counter-press well. You see some nice behaviors of four players coming together to win that ball. A couple quick passes in transition. Luca Petrasso, he's already high up the pitch. There's not a ton of width, which saves time. And then if you just keep your eye on Jonathan Osorio, he runs 40, 50 yards to get into that back post. He times those runs so well. And it's a real nicely taken finish. He controls it into the back of the net on the slide.
That's not an easy finish at the far post, Terry. Not an easy finish. I think the Dallas one sat up for him a little better, but the angle wasn't great. And just being able to shape that shot, getting it on target with the finish, never mind 50. That's a guy that can go on and score a century of goals for Toronto FC. Out now, he needs to pick up the pace a little bit 10 years into his Toronto FC career, but a great finish by Oso. No doubt about that on the far post.
What was amazing too was in the morning, selfishly with our under 15 team, we had a similar build coming down the left, and our right winger, it was around halfway. And if he would have busted his ass to get to the back post, Jonathan Osorio style, he maybe has a tap in. The cross comes and he's nowhere near it. And as soon as I saw that going, I'm like, boom, this is coming into our group chat. And just kind of nudge the guys to just keep your eye on Jonathan Osorio's run and how hard he works for the club to get to the back post to score. And what a great learning lesson, not just for the entire club. And, we're really lucky to have Jonathan Osorio here.
It was a really well-worked goal too. Like, I was kind of nerding out because when I played, I was a player that would say, what do you want me to do, coach? No problem. Done. I'll be able to go and execute. I just love how clearly Bradley went back to the room. Pause. I need you to play more centrally. I need you to pull the strings from this area. Also, we need to be much more dangerous in attack. We need you available inside the area. Both happened on that goal, Terry. Like, that goal's not scored if Pozuelo's not more centrally, and if Osorio isn't busting his you-know-what to get up the field as well.
Yeah, he comes off the front almost Firmino style for Liverpool, which opened up some of that space in behind. And it was a really well worked goal. And I think if I'm Jonathan Osorio and you're playing with Michael, you've almost got a license to get forward because Michael will sit. And I think Oso's form is great, and it's great coming into these games for Canada.
That's what I was going to say. There might be a starting spot, or a regular starting spot this window for an Oso the way he's playing right now. I haven't buried the lead here because there was a lot to like about the goal. But that service by Luca Petrasso down the left, Terry, that was sexy. Just wrapping his foot around the ball. Like, it was the perfect ball across the area. The goalkeeper was kind of stuck. The defenders didn't know what to do because it kind of shaped around the back line. It was a well-hit ball, which is an appropriate time to mention. Congratulations, Luca Petrasso, making the MLS Team of the Week with those 2 assists. 3 assists already on this early season for Luca.
Yeah, it's you can analyze his performance already very objectively, and with all of our homegrowns coming through, I'm not sure we can do that with the players. You see nice moments where you're like, oh, that's great. There's lots to build on, but what Luca's been very efficient. He's been purposeful. His actions are very easy to read. When that ball comes to him, it's a touch out of his feet and it's coming into the box with quality. They're very repeatable. And I think he hasn't been in the limelight coming through the academy. He's kind of just trusted in the process. And I think he's been able to really just keep his feet on the ground, and he's been trained for these moments. And it's just so cool to see. And, this is Luca Petrasso. It's as crazy as it might sound. I'm not surprised at all. This is just how he operates.
Very cool. TFC probably should have had more than just the 2. Jaden Nelson had a couple chances. One, he was coming down the left-hand side, decided to shoot instead of playing it to Pozuelo in the 59th minute. Paz was animated. Do you understand when Pozuelo is jumping around and gets animated with a player like that? Is that a message well delivered, or is there a different time and place and way of going about delivering that message? I understand it in the moment. I think we've all been there before, Terry. But with younger players, they're still a learning, right?
Yeah. I think not to overanalyze it, but I would say that Pozuelo's just maybe wrestling with himself a little bit. And he saw an opportunity for him to score. It should have been a cutback. He's 100% right. And I think the body language we see is potentially just frustrations with his own game right now. And I think in a perfect world, that conversation comes with the video in front of you and you're going through it kind of behind closed doors. And I think for Jaden on the other side, he was our out. He was the one causing problems, getting down the sides of DC, and he got into great spots. And he's just second guessing himself, where actions for Luca Petrasso are pretty implicit right now. He's kind of on cruise control. It's very automatic, where there's still a lot of thought and thinking behind what Jaden Nelson's doing. And he's just losing just a tiny bit of time. And I think him a little bit like Richie Larea, just seeing more pictures, more consistent actions, that'll come. And it's great Bob showing so much faith in him and giving him so many reps as well.
Yeah, I mean, you see this with every team around the world. It was a talking point amongst some TFC fans at the time after the game. I just chalk it down to it's an emotional game, right? Like, these sorts of things happen. And you're right, Pozuelo just gets his one goal, real opportunity to get a second. He just wanted that ball at his feet. Achara went in on Bill Hamid. He could have scored as well in the 68th minute. And as you mentioned earlier, just Alex Bono just had to deal with a bunch of half chances. TFC did a nice job closing the door, seeing out the game. A couple other things. I mean, it felt like another full 3 points, seeing Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy come onto the field as a second half substitute after leaving with that non-contact injury in Columbus, Terry. I was, and I think a lot of people were fearing the worst. He came on the field. He was taking on players. He looked smooth. That felt like a whole other 3 points being thrown our way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's when you talk about hype around our young players, the spotlight's definitely been on Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, and rightly so. I think he's got so much potential, a really high ceiling. He's learning a new position, that right back, right wing back role. I think he could probably play centrally as well if needed. But there's no in between in football. It's polarizing. You can be, oh man, I could be out here for 6 months, and then the next week you're back making another appearance. And I think he built up with some credit with Bob Bradley, where he was solid, and you're like, yeah, I can rely on this guy. I thought Alex Bono made a really good save too, in the first minute or first 30 seconds off Ole Kamara, where he comes through and he had to be engaged right off the hop. It took a great step back to buy some time to make a save when he got in between Salcedo and McNaughton.
Last shout out for me. Congratulations to Kosi Thompson making his coming on as a late sub to make his BMO Field debut. Another nice moment for a young local player, Terry.
Yeah, he's a great kid. Had an opportunity to go to university, almost went out west. Had a great year developing with TFC2. It was a 9 in the academy. I think Bob sees him more as maybe an 8 or a 10, running out from midfield, gets through a ton of work, is a leader. And just being in that environment, he'll soak up so much from the first team. And Bob's again shows that, you know what, if you're good enough, you'll play. If you train well, you'll get an opportunity. So really happy for Kosi Thompson.
Anything else from the game that you noticed that you want to point out? Does that cover it? Covers my notes.
I think just big picture, it was a must-win game. And it's tough to say so early into Bob Bradley's regime, but I think it just allows us to just breathe through this international window, work on some of the nuances of his game model with the players that are still here. But I think it's, this first block of games, you can see the structures there, the movement starting to come, and it's just a little bit more decision-making now, but that win's huge. Otherwise, there's a black cloud over the training ground for a couple of weeks.
First Canadian MLS team with a win this 2022 season. So there's that. You're at the training ground. What has the mood been like? I know that Osorio's off on international duty. Chris Mavinga is off on international duty as well. Other than that, all the players are there, maybe a few days off, but what's the vibe like? What's the, just the sentiment coming off the victory on the weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of onto the international window. I think, we were the better team against DC. We got what we deserved. And, it's just a nice step in the right direction. Bob Bradley and his staff are pretty even keeled. And it's just back to work, back to another day in the office.
Just two things I want to point out quickly. One, I know they didn't stuff them, but I'm so happy that TFC beat DC United. Like last year's 7-1, just, and the 3-1 to close out the year, it just was like, just beating that team right now means something, I think, at least for the collective mindset of Toronto FC supporters. And I'm going to go big picture as well. I am exceptionally encouraged by what I've seen from this very young team with so many new players coming in and the game model that's being installed by Bob Bradley. I think it gives fans a lot of reason to get excited for when this puzzle is actually completed, what it's going to come to look like the way that the team's playing, the attitude, the mentality. It's ticking all the boxes right now, Terry. Coming in, I think there was good reason to believe, okay, show it to me. Let's wait and see before I get too excited. I know the Insigne signing that gets people just automatically hyped. But in terms of how this overall project is going to play out, you're like, okay, let's wait and see. It's only been 4 games, but I'm entirely encouraged by what I'm seeing. What about you?
Yeah, I think there's a tough game at the end of this window against New York City.
They've been struggling a little bit. They have Champions League as well.
But I'd say that it's let's continue down this road. I can buy into this for sure. And I think it's a tough result against DC, you start to question, is it one too many kids? Can we continue? Do we need to overhaul the squad a little bit? Do we need some senior MLS guys with real experience to help us kind of navigate through to the summer to when Insigne comes? But That's why I think this results was just so important, that it allows us to just continue down this road. And it's exciting. It's a quick game model. It's fun to play in. It's aggressive. That there's teeth to how we press, and it's so cool seeing one of our own, or so many of our own, coming out of our own backyard representing Toronto FC. And I'd imagine that was probably part of Tannenbaum's vision when he first started the academy.
Next up for TFC, you mentioned it, Saturday, April 2nd. April, Terry. Wow. 4 p.m. Eastern time at BMO Field. The champs are here. New York City FC rolling into Toronto. It is worth mentioning that a few days after that game, on the Wednesday, it's always difficult coming out of the international break. On the Wednesday following, they have a semifinal tie against Seattle Sounders in the Champions League. So it could be a little bit of a look ahead spot for New York City FC. They've put all kinds of commitment to that. So it might play in Toronto FC's favor. So we'll see. We have plenty to cover before that, which brings us to our wheels up, wheels down of the week. My wheels down has to do with New York City FC, run by Citigroup, a club that you were associated with for years. They have lots of money, don't they, at Manchester City in the Citigroup? Yet they go to celebrate New York City's MLS Cup victory with the smallest, worst banner I've ever seen, that they just kind of hang off a box inside Yankee Stadium. What was that all about? Can't they afford more than that, Terry?
Maybe they're thinking legacy and new stadium, so we don't want to spend a ton of money on the banner.
Temporary.
I don't know. I thought that was
what was that?
Small, to be honest.
Just don't put one up if you're gonna put that up. My God, I was saying, I used to play in a co-ed dodgeball league in Toronto, and our team was called Chuck Like Norris, and we'd have this massive Chuck Norris banner we put up. It was better and bigger than that. My Chuck Norris banner for my co-ed dodgeball team. So, so there you go. And my wheels up for the week. We mentioned him, Luca Petrasso. You called him gigs-like at times, the way that he's played earlier this season. Man, he's been good. I did not see that coming. So Luca Petrasso gets my wheels up of the week. Instead of Terry's 3 Toronto FC talking points, I want to play a little bit of a game. I want this to be our own version of the 3 Bears. We all know the story about the 3 Bears. Too hot, too cold, just about right. That's how it goes, right? I don't know. It's been a while since I've read the 3 Bears, but you get the mentality, because I'm going to get Terry to pick out our own 3 Little Reds. Because coming through the system and coaching with the academy, Terry knows these young Canadian players, these new players that you're seeing on a weekly basis, better or just about as well as anyone else in this country. Of course, I'm throwing Caden Chung and Lucas McNaughton in that equation as well, after Terry covering the Canadian Premier League like he has in recent years. So this is what I want you to do. Of the new players on this Toronto FC team, who has surprised you the most? Who has surprised you the least, and who the way they're playing is just about right?
Ooh, good segment. First, I have to say there's an incredible team helping support these young players, and I just play a small role in it, which is I feel very fortunate too. I'm going to take us back to process and how we broke down the game against DC. And I think our listeners can probably get there with how our previous segment just went. So I'd say, which Bear do we want to go with first?
Okay, let's go. Who has surprised you the most?
Who has surprised me the most? I'd say Luca Petrasso. Even though I'm contradicting myself, because I said before he hasn't really surprised me. What surprised me about Luca is how he's been able to take his game to the next level seamlessly. And from that first action when he whipped the ball around the defender and ran the other way around him, to setting up Oso's goal, it's been consistent, it's been reliable, it's been effective, it's been efficient. And how he's played in the academy to TFC2, he's just executing on the dance floor at BMO Field and in other stadiums away from home. So Luca Petrasso. Would you argue that?
Nope.
Would you check and challenge me?
No, buddy. You know how I love to do my checks and challenges. That's kind of my game. I cannot check or challenge that. Who has surprised you the least?
Ooh, I'd say Jaden Nelson's probably where I'd say he's at, where he's tracking as I'd probably say I thought he might be. I think it's great that Bob's taken him under his wing, and some of that individual feedback will be huge for him. More reps. There's tons of potential. He made his Canada debut, I believe, in January 3 or 4 years ago when he was like 18. There's a huge upside to it. But he just still needs to keep working on the process, keep working on his game. And I still think that there's a lot more to come.
And whose performances thus far have been just about right?
They might not know it, but they're flying the banner for CPL, Caden Chung and McNaughton. And I think any GMs in MLS that are looking at CPL is maybe a mechanism for players to come in and help your squad. I think the way Caden Chung and McNaughton have performed, they're what you thought they would be. I think they've been reliable. I think they've been solid. I think, again, there's a little bit more to come, but they've been groomed well for MLS, and a big shout out to Pacific and CPL. It's a real pathway for players to come into MLS.
That was our Three Little Red segment. I agree. I was asked a question on One Soccer yesterday about, the performances of McNaughton and Chung, and, if they've kind of boosted the stock, helped the credibility of the Canadian Premier League. And I said, I'm not sure how much it does to make other, casual Toronto FC fans go out and tune into the Canadian Premier League. But I think you nailed it. I think that in the mindset of general managers, people around this league, when they're looking at the Canadian Premier League, the more that players like this make seamless adjustments, you have faith in bringing in players at a good value, young Canadian players, by the way, and give them a look in Major League Soccer. This is what we've been asking for, right, Terry? This is why by design, this is so critical. It's not just hearing and gathering stats on these players. It's having the professional broadcasts and actual tape to go on and take it to these clubs and say, look, these players could play a little bit. Why don't we give these players a role, bring them in as a squad player, the back end of our squad, and see if they can work their way into the team? It just makes too much sense for me. And I get why MLS leadership would be reluctant at first. It's a brand new league. Like, the standard wasn't really set from the get-go. But now there's a body of work, right, that you're going to kind of quickly understand that, yeah, the academies are a pathway, but potentially your academy players who need first team football, the Canadian Premier League could be another option. And you know what? Sometimes clubs just miss out on a player. They just go down a different road and they mature before your eyes. So I think that this does wonders in terms of giving Canadian players that extra pathway to make their way into an MLS team.
Yeah, we just got to be a little bit careful. The sample size is just 4 games, but it is very bright. And a shout out to our front office and Bill Manning and Bob Bradley for trailblazing. And we saw Waterman go to CF Montreal, so that there has been some, but for going, we are going to dip into CPL and trust that. And the environment too for our young players and a couple of CPL guys has been a tricky one too, with an almost like a roster overhaul, a new philosophy coming in Bob Bradley. In a perfect world, young players come into a real stable team and seasoned vets, or players new to a league come into a robust starting 11. And what's cool is these guys have figured it out together.
McNaughton put out, it was a post someone made something on socials that was saying that they were the new kids on the block, and they had them all the pictures. Yeah. So, and I was like, Lucas McNaughton has to be Jordan McKnight of that group. Maybe Petrasso's the Joey McIntyre. Were you a big new kids guy growing up?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I was like, ooh, I wish I could maybe dress like that. And then the skinny jeans over in the UK came out, and I was kind of caught between times. And I was, new kids on the block were cool.
I remember, on the playground growing up, like the music teacher and some kids had this big boom box that they were holding up in the air, and they're just blaring New Kids on the Block, and all the kids were going, oh, hang it up. Yeah, I remember that vividly. So yeah, they were hot back then. And hey, look, the New Kids on the Block are hot right now for Toronto SC. So good for them. Before we get into the international window, a trade was consummated. We wish Kamar Lawrence the best of luck with Minnesota United. Some GAM, a prospect comes back Toronto FC's way. This is just part of the process, Terry, just being able to clear out players who might not necessarily fit what's going on here, creating more cap space, more flexibility to go out and do other things. Like Lawrence, he's a Jamaican international, an established international player starting for country, has a good track record in this league as well. So a good player, another good player going out. But I think what we're seeing right here, it's just who fits the model going forward, who fits the bill and who doesn't. And that's the process that TFC continues to go through.
For sure. I think Bob's got real clarity in what he's looking for his style of play. And by no means is Kamara not an MLS player or not an international, but it's not a fit for what Bob Bradley's looking to build. And I think that kind of, I don't want to say ruthlessness, sorry, is the right word, but I think just kind of pulling the string and just moving on is important, and it gives you some time to bring the next piece in.
I'll give this front office credit, like they've been decisive. And this coaching said, like you need to be decisive, like no messing about. You're in or you're out, and it that comes with the players from a player's perspective, but a coaching staff's perspective. Understand that there's a process that needs to play out, and that's how you expedite it, right? So
I'd say, Wheels, too, that's one of the advantages of having a head coach / sporting director, that you can expedite stuff a little bit quicker.
So good, good stuff there in terms of how this team is being remodeled before our eyes. Okay, we're the international break. Is this it? Is this the time that finally we put 1986 and that long wait just in the rear view mirror as Canada is on the verge of qualifying for FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar? 3 games this upcoming window. Terry Dunfield and I will be on the call for all 3. It starts Thursday night, Canada against Costa Rica from San Jose, before the team returns back to Toronto to play at BMO Field against Jamaica next Sunday. On a scale of 1 to a million, how excited are you about what's upcoming this week?
I've been in 10 since the last window, and every time I speak to someone,
I said a million though. 1 to a million.
Oh yeah, I'm a million, man. I'm a million. What are you?
I'm 2 million. That's it.
Nice.
Can you, like, as a former national team player, can you kind of put some context into what this week actually means?
Every time I try to get pumped, or I maybe speak to someone from the technical staff of Canada, everyone just keeps like pumping the brakes. Whoa, we're not there yet. We've got to get past Costa Rica, and then we got a tough game against Jamaica that have nothing to play for, and then Panama are still in with the shout, and everyone just keeps like bringing me down, and I'm like, we're going to the World Cup, and so that's been a bit of a buzzkill, but I get it. And I guess I was thinking about it last night, Wheels. We've almost like it's like Canada just haven't been at World Cups, and it's just normal now. And you start to cheer for England, or I'm sure you support Wales if you can get there. But like it's just unfortunately, and it's super sad. It's become normal that Canada haven't been at World Cups, and it's almost surreal that Maple Leaf is going to be walking out into a stadium in Qatar in less than 12 months. It's incredible.
It's close. how emotional will you be if and when they qualify, whether it be Thursday, whether it be Sunday at home?
I don't know. I just like it's surreal still. And then when they do get there, is like we've got such a special team and coaching staff around the group, and like, do you quickly switch now to what's next? And it's okay, how do we get out of our group? Or do you just like take a minute and enjoy it? I don't know. I don't think you'll know until we get over the line. And then is it like when we get over the line, is it okay, we want to win our group and make sure we're in the right pot, and on to the next kind of game? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's going to be very emotional. I think that there's a lot of people that have put a lot of sweat equity into this, have been part of teams that haven't been able to get over the line. No shortage of trying, Terry. Like I look at players like yourself, that entire generation who did what you could, within the constraints and limitations. But now it seems like those shackles have been taken off and we're in a completely different place. And this group from the outset has been dead set on kind of taking full advantage. The fact that we are in a much different place, thanks to the Canadian MLS teams like Toronto FC, thanks to the hard work of so many individuals behind the scenes who do thankless job for crap money and incredibly long hours just in order to make a difference. And now we're seeing that all paid off. So it's not just the players I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about everyone within the Canadian soccer landscape that we've had the privilege of being part of for so long, and finally reaching this high water point. That's kind of what I'm thinking of over these next few days.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like the tough years and slogging of TFC, and then you win MLS Cup in 2017, and it's just, this is great. And then there's legacy to it as well, because you've got structures in place for it to continue. And I'd say it's been a transformative process since John Herdman's taken over. I think we've changed as a country, and it's not been transactional, and as maybe it was kind of in previous regimes. And man, I know I'm living through a TiVo right now. It's so cool.
Yeah. Look, there's plenty of places that you're going to be able to go and get your analysis of the Canadian men's national team and breaking down the team and what it's going to look like. Of course, no Alphonso Davies. So unfortunate. A couple suspensions, couple injuries as well. So there is an element of unknown, and they need to be obviously focused on the task at hand. When do you think they clinch this, Terry? Like it could very well be Thursday night in Costa Rica. There's a part of me that I can envision what BMO Field, and we've spent so many big nights and times at BMO Field, for Canada to clinch there potentially on Sunday, right here in our own backyard, inside that stadium, in front of Canadian fans. There would just be something really special about that. I can't get off that one either. I'm kind of hoping that I know Herdman and everyone get it done first, and we have plenty to play for in terms of seeding and going undefeated and all that stuff. But clinching at home in the scenes that would kind of create, there's a part of me that would love to see that.
Yeah. Or we're undefeated in six straight wins, 13 goals for, 2 against. I think you want to keep that run going. And you come up against kind of like a stubborn Costa Rica team that have almost found a second win. They're undefeated in 4, 3 of them wins, only conceded 1. They're really well organized. I don't know if you remember that game in Edmonton before Mexico. Costa Rica on that thin field sat in a real low block. They were difficult to break down. That's kind of what you're coming up against. But in Costa Rica, having said that, Costa Rica have to win. They're in 5th right now. They're hanging in there. They need 3 points. Then they play the U.S., I believe. So can they sit in that low block? At some point, they're going to have to go after 3 points, where maybe in Edmonton they were okay with the point. So I think that'll lead to a little bit more space, a little bit more of an open game. So if Canada win in Costa Rica, I think then you're there. You've clinched.
Yeah. It's a win and you're in scenario. That's a simplest equation.
I'd say a lot of effort, Wheels, is goes into this Costa Rica game, and like one game at a time. Next game is just how do you beat Costa Rica, and I'm sure John has contingency plans, and he'll have enough energy and load management savviness and to get through the next two games. But I think you go for 3 points in Costa Rica.
Full coverage upcoming Thursday night on One Soccer. You can also watch the game on Rogers Sportsnet as well. Terry and I will be in the booth. I'll see you there Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time kickoff. So get your espresso and your coffee or whatever you need to, I'm not sure if you're going to need anything to stay awake, but it's going to be a late one, but well worth it. It could be a historic night for Canadian sport.
Oso's positional play, I think, in his form with TFC right now, I think, does he maybe just sneak into the 11, having been on the outside looking in the last kind of round of games? I'd love to see him playing.
I think about the way that Oso plays in tough places, whether it's scoring at the Azteca or over this at qualifying, you're playing at altitude. Oso's reliable in games like this, right? He's good on the ball. He controls games. His temperament's right. Yeah. I actually expect him to be in the starting 11. I have no intel or insight, but Eustachio hasn't been playing that much. He hasn't been getting regular football. Atiba, can he go 3 games at 39? Probably not. Like that central midfield, there's roles to go out and get. And I think that Oso's on potentially the best form of any right now at that position.
Yeah, Mark Anthony Kaye's been good the last couple of games for Colorado, but I think I'd be surprised if he's not in the 11.
Good stuff, Terry. Looking forward to it. Thank you for this week. Thank you to our producer Erica as well, who just returned from a UK excursion. She was back in your old stomping grounds in Manchester. Terry, she got the privilege of seeing United lose at Old Trafford. That's usually my experience as well when I go there. But the Champions League must have been a cool experience other than the results. But hey, c'est la vie. That's kind of the situation at Old Trafford right now. On behalf of Terry Dunfield, I am Gareth Wheeler. Wheels down. This is being Come On You Reds.